Good evening. I can see at least Vidya is from the state, so good morning also. Namaste and a warm welcome to this first workshop for the JES Story Contests. The title of the workshop is Elements and Structure of Short Story Writing. Now, before I start, let me tell you something. We all are born storytellers. Now, you would appreciate it better if you think back about your own life story when you were little children. You would come back home and would have, possibly were all muddied and dirty, at least some of you, and your mother might have asked you what you have done to yourself, and you would have just to avoid being scolded by her, you would have told her some story. But even much before you turn into a storyteller, you actually were a story listener as well. When did you start listening to these stories? You started listening to these stories when you were in your mother's womb. You do not believe me? See, all mothers or mothers to be, they like to talk to their the fetus. They like to talk to their womb and narrate them stories. And going back, what I can think about is the story of Abhimanyu, who was who could learn the way of getting into the inside the Chakravyuh when he was still in his mother's womb. And his father was narrating the skill of getting into the Chakravyuh. He could not listen to the second part of it, and so that's why he could not get out of it. Now, speaking of the epics, these are the best stories that one could read, both Ramayana or Ramcharitmanas and Mahabharata. These stories had everything. All these 7 elements of ras, as they say, all the emotions, all the senses, they are there in these stories. There is love, there is lust, there is jealousy, there is joy, there are tears. Anything and everything that you can think of are there in these 2 stories. And yet, if today you were asked to write or narrate those stories, you might actually think of doing it slightly different. So I think I'll come back to that a little later. Before that, it's just a brief overview, and I'll start off with something which is not related to creativity or creative arts or creative writing. I'll be talking about creative writing, but you can replace short stories with creative writing, because short stories is also a form of creative writing. So when I talk of creative writing, you will have that much more freedom to actually expand your horizons, to write something bigger, even novels and anything that you can think of. Now, but before even that, these are a few subjects which are dear to my heart. Most of you are either entering into your adulthood or have just entered into your adulthood or even your professional life. And this is something which I feel that there are things that we should do for our community. Teach a child. Any child in your community is one thing that I am very passionate about. Plant a tree. Trees are dying away, and that's damaging our ecosystem, our environment. So plant a tree. Conserve water. Most of us are guilty of wasting water any time of the day while brushing our teeth or while taking a shower or anything. So you can do something. Conserve. We have to conserve water. Water is something which is, as they say, that the next coming world wars are going to be around water scarcity. And manage your waste. Please don't let our cows gorge on plastic. Do not use single-use plastic. Do not spit anywhere. So, and do not fill our water bodies with all this waste. And there is so much. So this was something, not related to, I would say, creative writing, but I feel that it is extremely important, and it will go a long way uh, in your life also. Now, very quickly, my introduction. I am founder of Kala, a platform for the promotion of literature and arts. I'm an author. I'm a coach. I'm a columnist in the Pioneer and the Hindu. I'm a speaker. I'm an arbitrator. I'm a strategy consultant. But whatever I have written is something or are something which I was practically not. I was an electrical engineer by qualification. I worked for Indian Railways. I worked for a private company as a business head. And then I quit to start my own enterprise into strategy consulting. And late, quite late in 2019, when I had just turned 60, I turned into a writer. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that if I look at your introduction, you are a group of creative young adults with a love for literature. And that defines you because you're already into literature at this young age. So there is so much more that you can do as against what I have been able to do or I have been able to achieve. Moving on. Now, what is creative writing? I could ask if I was speaking in an auditorium hall, I could have asked you any guesses. So I'm still going to ask you any guesses. Uh, Now, but I will, and please feel free to jot down your queries, your questions, because there will be elements of creative writing, or there would be a lot of questions about creative writing or short story writing that you may have. Many of these would get covered by the following speakers, because all those elements are getting covered by one of the author or the other. You will get to know a lot. I would not say learn, because you are already, know a lot of things. You are young smart adults. But yeah, your many of your doubts will get answered by them also. You can even later also get in touch and let me know if there is something which you would want me to answer, and I will do that. Now, so when I say creative writing, so there has to be a non-creative. And so what is a non-creative writing? Non-creative writing is basically facts and information instead of strong emotional visuals. Examples could be academic papers, journals, news. I mean, though some of you may say that, the news stories that you read these days, they are nothing less than fiction. And I would not contest you there. That is true. But yeah, but the news are actually not creative writing. They are non-creative. As well as that, what is a creative? Creative writing is a form of writing to tell a story by creating a strong visual impact through written words, connecting with the reader at an emotional level through use of imagination, creativity, and innovation. So this is a form of writing. You are telling a story through written words. You are connecting with the reader emotionally. If you are writing something about, somebody had tears in her eyes, so they connect with that character, and your success would be that even if the reader also has tears in his or her eyes, so you use imagination, creativity, and innovation. Now, what are the different forms of creative writing? There are of different types, different genres and styles: fiction or non-fiction. Some of the examples could be biographies. In fiction, there could be novels, novellas, short stories, speeches, poetry and spoken words, playwriting, script writing, and personal essays. So short stories is something that you are actually interested in here at this point of time. But then these tips or these guidelines would help you even in your other forms of creative writing as well. But now there is a disclaimer. There is no formula for good creative. There is absolutely no formula. Why? You may ask me why. So I'll go to the next slide and I'll merge the two slides that I spoke about earlier, that what is creative writing and what are the different forms of creative writing. And I've highlighted why I say that there's no formula, because it's a form of writing to tell a story by use of imagination, creativity, and innovation. And it's of different types, different genres, and let me quickly, yeah. And even the different forms or the different genres are also different. There are multiple, so many of these. And so because there cannot be, because of this exactly, there cannot be one definition or formula of what makes good creative writing, because it is an imaginative process created by an individual across different types and genres. Uh, Slightly difficult to understand, but then because it's your process, your imagination. And if there are 30 odd people sitting here today together, the same set of the 30 people would think 30 in 30 different ways, or maybe 60 different ways, or maybe even 90 different ways. I'll just give you an example. Like, for example, supposing I wake up in the morning and I use a prompt that the moment I woke up, this morning when I woke up, I had not realized the way my day would turn out to be. Now, just close your eyes, think of this prompt. I had not realized the way my day would turn out to be. And you might be thinking of, I would think of it as meeting someone mysterious. Someone else might think of it as meeting someone funny, or maybe some incident happening. Maybe, someone might think that, okay, I slipped on a banana peel and the people around me started laughing. And then you continue with that story. So it could be any genre that you could think of out of a simple prompt, or even out of a simple, because there are stories all around us. Each incident, each event that we witness is a story in itself. And you might think of it in a different way. Like, for example, I wrote a story, which was, I think, the strange encounter, one of these stories. And in that story, I had used a prompt, and that prompt was something like, I saw it was raining outside, and I saw a lonely figure walking. And eventually, I actually wrote something slightly supernatural. The two people come and meet this person, and they tell him it's COVID times, and they tell him that you are inviting death. And at end of the story, there was a twist. He realizes that possibly those two persons were Yamraj and Chitragupt themselves. So I used Mr. Gupta for Chitragupt, and for Yamraj I used, I think, Mr. Raj. So you could think of it differently. But now, having said that, you are going to be, there would be more questions than answers. I thought I was attending a workshop on short story writing. This person is talking about creative writing. He tells me there is no formula for writing a good story. How do I write an engaging story? So, having said that, I would again go back to the earlier slide about creative writing, that it is a form of creative writing to tell a story by strong visual impact through written words, connecting with the reader at an emotional level, use of imagination, creativity, and innovation in short stories. And that is what gives you, there would not be any formula, there would not be any definition, but there would be certain elements. If you use those elements, you are certain to write an engaging story. So there are a few principles of creative writing. Know who you are writing for. You should have a target audience in mind. But then I am contradicting myself, because Mahabharata or Ramayana, did those writers write for a target audience? I think they are universal. They are for everyone. But still, it helps. If you are writing a young adult romance, then it is for young adults. Possibly older people may not appreciate it. So you have to have an idea about your target audience. Write about what you know. You could use anecdotes, events from your life. Be creative. Think out of the box. Uh, just to give you another example, I was staying in Jaipur about 3 or 4 years back, and it was very close to the lake. And so evening I went out for a walk, and I saw that, those of you who have probably visited Jaipur, they would know that there's a dilapidated kind of a structure. At least it looks dilapidated from the road structure in between the lake as you come down the fort and move towards the city. And I have not yet gotten down to inking that story, but I thought, that maybe, I could write a supernatural story out of it, that you could hear the anklets tinkling and piles and all those things. I could think of that. Yet, the rational in me does not want to write a supernatural story, because, somewhere I do not like the concept of supernatural. Maybe I'll write something different out of that. Be imaginative, think out of the box, and create a loose story. Now, there are quite a lot of these elements of creative writing. And now you should start. When I talk of creative writing, even I will consciously try to use the word short story writing. But you can replace creative with the word short story. Decide the central theme or message, what exactly you are wanting to convey to your readers. Then develop a loose kind of a plot, a unique plot that you would be writing about. Develop the characters. Talk about the characters, who they are, where they are living, how they are living. Create a structure for the flow. And this is structure. I am highlighting it. Structure is something which you can always change even after you have completed your story. I'll give you an example later from my own book, but you can always change it after the story is completed. The story should build tension, leading to a climax, and then gradually concluding. Now, once again, there is no formula. You would hear different people talking differently. Sorry. A few people would be saying that, the first 70% is building tension, 30, 70, 15, 70, and 15 kind of thing. And the last 15 is the conclusion. Some people would say that the 50% of the story should be building tension. So it's all up to you, your imagination. But the story should build curiosity or tension. And there should be a climax. And then concluding, as I said. And once again, there is no rigid formula, but broadly, it should conclude. Then you start the story. You build your story. Use imaginative language to paint a picture in the reader's mind. And once you have written the story, then start thinking about what could be replaced with a dialogue. Because dialogue delivery has a better impact than just a essay writing. So insert or replace those elements with dialogues. Now I would say you are ready with your story, but then when you are reading it, you may like to restructure the story. You may like to bring something from down to something in the front or something at the top. It's your call as the writer. So you can restructure the story. And then finally, the most important thing, which I can, never emphasize less, is editing. Uh, you would not believe it that when I write a story, anything, or even a novel, even my short articles that I write, I create possibly 7 or 8 versions. My first version is never good enough for me. I create several versions, uh, and it's only when I have satisfied that now I have done my best, that I send it across to the publisher or to my beta readers, and then I incorporate. Uh, it's my call, of course, but then I try to incorporate what they tell me. Like, for example, I'm telling you about the atmosphere. I spoke about the atmosphere. There was in my second novel, The Gymnast, there was a particular piece where the local zamindar, sometime in the late 50s, when the zamindari was still there, early 50s, the zamindari was still there. He's called by the zamindar to his house. He's just got married. And as he is walking with his father to the zamindar's haveli, I had initially written that he walks to the Haveli. My friend told me, who was a better reader, he told me that, you have to create an atmosphere. What he is thinking, whether he is having trembling feet, whether he is consciously slowed down, he does not want to reach the Zamindar because he does not know what the Zamindar is going to ask him or is going to tell him. And I tried to incorporate what he had told. So broadly, the structure of your story is going to be what these are the elements which I have tried to summarize. The first is the cap, as I call it. It provides a background information about the characters. So C comes from characters, the ambience they live in, the atmosphere that they live in. So A comes from that atmosphere, and the general plot. P is plot. So remember cap, characters, ambience, and plot. Now, so when you are talking about the characters, this sets the stage for the narrative, the what you are going to be talking about. Then, as you move along, there is an incident or an event in your story which sets your story in motion. It throws your character's settled world off balance, which demands resolution. Many of you would have seen those Anil Kapoor movies. Most of the first one was where Anil Kapoor and Madhuri Dixit, and he is actually banished from Bombay, Tadipar, as they say. So that was an incident. There was an incident in his life, and most of the stories that you see even on the screen also, they have that incident. So this is the incident. Then there is action. So because of that incident, there is some action that is taking place in the protagonist's life, in the lives of the other characters. And so there is tension. If you watch the OTT series these days, you will see that you can feel it, that each episode, the tension is building up and you are looking forward to what is coming next. And so then there's a climax in the story. And the protagonist faces challenges, confronts obstacles, and eventually this all leads to a certain climax. This is the peak of the story, the point of the maximum tension, and this changes the trajectory of the character's journey. And then finally, there is a resolution or the closure. I think I have probably again gone away, but let me see if I have come back, but I don't know. Let me continue as it is. So there's a resolution. There was an impact. Uh, there was an impact of the events on the different characters' lives and how their lives then got changed because of that. And lastly, I had said editing. You have to read your story dispassionate. You have to be absolutely dispassionate about your story. You must eliminate repetitions. If you have written a certain dialogue somewhere, please do not repeat it. Correct your spellings, your language, your grammatical errors. Now is the point that I'm trying to say. Change the flow if you want. Sometimes many books that you might have read, you would have seen that the climax actually has come in the beginning, and then there is a backstory. If you look at even Mahabharata and Ramayana also, Mahabharata and Ramayana were primarily linear stories. They start linear in time. They started from the back or from the past, and then moved on to the present and then to the future. What if? Always ask yourself, what if? So I ask myself, what if? If the story was started with, Ramayana was started with the Lord Ram, Bhagwan Ram sitting on the throne, and in future, and that Ram Raj, with Ram Raj. And then but it was not always so. It was not always so. And then it moves to a past. Or same is the case with Mahabharata also. So what if scenario? So you can change the flow, you can create the next draft, draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, reread, create another draft. And very important, give your draft to other readers. Always find readers who would critically look at your story and give you suggestions. As a storyteller, as a story writer, it's your story. It's your call whether you want to change it or not, but always keep in mind what the other readers have to tell you. It always helps. You want to incorporate something rational that you think should be incorporated, do that. And so when I say readers, that's what I meant. They should be actually really dispassionate readers. If I write a story and give it to my friends and family, most of them, they will say, "Oh, it's a lovely story. It's a beautiful story." Try and find people who may not be your friends, because they'll be able to give you a better idea about your story. Incorporate their suggestions if you feel so. And once again, as I said, do not hesitate to create multiple drafts till you are satisfied. I'll be closing this with 3 or 4 examples. I would like you to read them. These are a few examples which I liked. When you go and buy a book, what is the first thing that you see? You see the back jacket, you see the blurb, and then you see the end, and you see the beginning. Now, these are the opening lines from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity, it was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, it was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. And the stage is set. You are looking forward to see what will come next. And the blurb says, the two cities are Paris and London, and the scene shifts from one to the other in a story of brutality, repression, hatred, and revenge on the one hand, and idealism, love, and self-sacrifice on the other. The second example that I would like to tell you is, I love this book. I call it, it's a fictional story. And those of you who have visited probably, I think, Jaisalmer, on the outskirts of Jaisalmer, there's a village known as Kuldhara. And it was the Kuldhara was considered to be a haunted village because these villages were actually vacated overnight by the residents because of some local landlord. And so I call this as a poetic prose. They say the desert is ageless, timeless, that it was never born and will never die. Did history actually happen here? Or was it all the dream of a traveler lost and past? Who knows? For what is left are only stories and storytellers, their words and music evocative of distant times now buried under the sands forever. And the blurb is talks about the Kuldhara. In fact, I visited Kuldhara just last November itself, and the kind of noise or sound being created there by the travelers or by the tourists. I could never think of it as a haunted village, but then the fiction that has been created by Malti is wonderful. Just one more example. This is another great book, The Odessa File by Frederick Forsyth. There are so many great books. I mean, any book that you read, you will find they're written wonderfully. And the blurb, just read out, in the early spring of 1964, a package of documents arrived unannounced and anonymously at the Ministry of Justice in Bonn. To the very few officials who ever saw the list of names on these sheets, the package became known as the Odessa File. And Peter Miller vowed to hunt and expose the SS killers living in Germany under the mighty Odessa's protection, and whose names were on the Odessa File. You are intrigued that, as it is, that is one part of our history, human history, that is, we always love to read or like to read about that time. And the opening lines are simply probably nothing related with this Odessa file. Everyone seems to remember with great clarity what they were doing on November 22nd, 1963, at the precise moment they heard President Kennedy was dead. Peter Miller was driving back into the town center after visiting his mother at her. So this Peter Miller, it just introduces Peter Miller. And I think as the story moves, he starts hunting the people on that Odessa file. So that brings me to the end, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to, let me see if I'm able to. Let me try to get back my. I'll just hold on. Let me see if I can get back my video. Yeah, there I am back with you once again. And so if there are any questions at this point of time, at this stage with you, you can always put it in the chat box. If not, or I would say, please absorb whatever I have talked about, whatever I have said. Please absorb. You can note down your questions, and you can always send me those questions, because I can assure you that many of those questions will get answered, not just by me, but even by the other authors who would be coming in later, today and then next Sunday. And so I started with telling you that there is no formula for a creative writing. I maintain that there's no formula for short story writing or creative writing, as I said. But there are certain principles. If you follow those principles, your story will become more engaging. If I started writing these short articles almost, and even my short articles, I create, 7 or 8 versions. I look at it, read at it. I may have created a short article of about 1,200 words. Now I have to condense it to 700 words. So I edit it. And then I look at the structure. Is it flowing through? Is my previous paragraph merging into the second paragraph? Is logically following the second paragraph and then the third paragraph? Is my each sentence right, correct, at that place where I put that sentence, or should it come before or should it come later? So a short story writing or even a novel writing where each chapter is a short story is also similar. You have to keep moving. And so that's why I said that is the only formula. But think out of the box and keep writing. I would also say that keep reading. Read as much as you can read, because it helps improve your vocabulary. It helps improve your language. And it only improves your view of a story. So keep reading and keep writing. Whatever. I mean, get into the habit of writing, even if it's for 5 minutes in a day. If your professional commitments are not permitting you to write more than that, but okay, no worries. Write just a single paragraph. Write just a single sentence even on a day. But keep writing. Keep writing. That this is also a practice or a discipline that you have to inculcate within you. So that's about the questions and answers. And of course, you can always get in touch with me through Jayanti Shankar. This is my Linktree profile, which Sanjay Chandra. That is the Linktree profile. You can always get in touch with me anytime that you want to. For anything, any suggestion, any guidance that I can give you, I would certainly love to give you. Feedback, you can always send your feedbacks, or don't tell me that I was atrocious. Don't tell me on my face. You can always write it back to me, and I'll take it as a constructive criticism. The same way that you should take the criticism of those beta readers in a constructive way to improve upon your story. So feedback is absolutely important. With that, I close my talk. I would stop my share now. Once again, thank you all for being patient, for being disciplined and listening to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. I think that was really good.
No,
I
thank you very much.
especially like the examples, and I think I haven't read Malti Ramchandran's book, but I should read it because I really like the
Oh,
examples.
it was something lyrical. The way she wrote that story. In fact, I did not like her subsequent story like Mandu and all that much. But this one was, I coined that phrase, poetic prose. Uh, it pulls you into the story. That would be lovely, yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you. So I think that's all. I think I can now log out. You have stopped the recording?
Pan 5.